Hi. If you want to win Metro Exodus on the Xbox One, all you have to do is share this podcast on social media and just tag us in it so we know you've done it, and then we'll enter you into a big hat with a prize draw. That's it. Simple as that. All we're asking is just to share, because we've been doing this for a few years now. We enjoy it. We've got a nice little community, and we just want to reach more people. So if you would like to hang around and have a listen, if you're not a regular listener, then that'd be lovely too. We'd really like that. But don't feel that you have to. Just give us a share. We're being quite open and honest about it. Yeah, thanks for helping us out. Let's crack on. Hello and welcome to the Codec Moments Podcast. I'm Andy Brown at Clinical Andy on Twitter, and joining us today is Dr. Matthew Holt.
Hello.
And the lovely Andy Cornwall.
Hello.
So, been playing anything in particular, lads?
Yes, we have. Yeah, Dirt Rally 2.0.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Oh, wait, hang on, sorry.
Filthy game.
Last week, you should talk about
it. Yeah, we've done that one already. Yes. No, we've played something else, haven't we?
We have, yes. Quite a lot.
I haven't. It's not that I don't own it. I just haven't had a chance to play it.
So it is Metro Exodus, which has, in fairness, been on our watch list for quite a long while. After the stunning, and I'm going to go with the Redux versions because they did look and play brilliantly, but Metro 2033 and Metro Last Light. And I've been waiting for Exodus as a fan of the series, not just of the games, but of the books as well.
I don't think it's unfair to say that it was palpably the thing you were most eagerly anticipating towards the end of last year, because I remember being at EGX with you, and it's also the one thing you didn't get to try, which was probably really frustrating for you.
It was, yeah.
And it had an awesome looking stand as well.
It did. No, it looked stunning the way they presented
Smoke
it,
and stuff.
the way they'd done everything. And it was my disappointment. I think we might have mentioned it in a post-EGX podcast. That we didn't get to actually have a go at the show. That, yes, it bothered me, but not too much, because I knew playing things at an event like that are not always as good as sitting at home and absorbing them yourself. And Metro was the type of series that really demands a bit of atmosphere and involvement in the story and the environment, and having the opportunity to get into it. They're not just 10-minute blast shooters. They're very considered in what they're doing, although they do contain quite a lot of shooting and killing and stealthing around. Mm-hmm. But they're very, very nicely different.
So given the anticipation and the build-up then, and the fact that the anticipation for you was probably greater for having not played it, I suppose. You maybe built it up into more than it would have been otherwise.
Oh, absolutely. I pre-ordered the Aurora edition. I was getting that excited about it. I really wanted the big fancy 1 of 10 edition. Well, I didn't win one of those.
Was that one with the crazy watch?
Yes, the actual real working watch. But yeah, looked fantastic. Did that. Then there was I forget the name of the edition of it, but there was one with the statue of the Watchman and Artyom against a door, and it looked really nice. But I have, and we've talked about this many times in the past, but I have kind of gone away from buying that sort of collector's edition. But I still fancied something a bit special, so I went for the sort of the next one up, which comes in a lovely steel tin and extra codes that didn't work when it released, and all
has the
that
season
kind of
pass in it. Yeah,
yeah, the season pass that didn't work and everything else. But the edition itself was a very nice little piece to receive, and the anticipation got me. I only pre-ordered sort of fairly last minute as well. It wasn't months in advance. I was just sat there biting my nails waiting for release day, and thought, no, I'm gonna have to do it.
Has anything been released yet about what's actually in that season pass that the code didn't work for?
There's a theme. There's a dynamic theme, and there's supposed to be a weapon as well that there has been a video about, but after playing many hours, I'm still struggling to find where you buy this weapon, because it's supposed to be something you can purchase. So maybe I need to do a bit of actual digging, or maybe I have to go hunting for a weapons dealer or something. But I haven't come across it yet. Yeah. But it is supposed to be for additional level content later in the year. So it's not just a couple of cosmetic items. It
Right.
is full on stuff that's coming later on.
Oh, okay.
So I want to know if it's lived up to the expectations. Talk me through your feelings from the start of the game.
I struggled a little bit with the start. So I've kind of played a little bit of the others, but not really got into them. So I wouldn't class myself as a fan of the series. And the start for me was quite slow. There's a fair amount of action, but quite slow. And it was very, very linear. But I persevered with it because I wanted to get into a game that I know Matt raves a lot about. And then it opened up and it got very good. But the starting is something that you have to persevere with, which is what, half an hour to an hour's gameplay, Matt?
Yeah, I'd say there's an hour in there. It's the first hour is effectively trying to condense the entire contents of the book Metro 2035 to give you context into why they've moved from Last Light into this situation. So it tries to put a lot in there, and it keeps it very tight and very rigid. It takes a lot of liberties, in fairness, with the subject matter, but it does ultimately get you to the position they're in, where they're escaping on this train, which is the whole idea. Is you've gone from this Moscow underground, which everybody that they believe they're the only people in the world alive, and they're living under there to stay alive. Well, it turns out it's a little bit of a lie. They have got a nuclear wasteland outside, but yeah, they can get away, and they sort of find this train, the Aurora, and start escaping from the city. And then from that point onwards, it's about them trying to build a new life by finding somewhere to go.
Yeah, and that opening hour is very, very clever in delivering the tutorial and how you do different things and take down people stealthily and shoot locks to open certain doors. And it's worth persevering with, because obviously in the E3 videos and things that everyone lost their minds about was when they first come above ground and there's massive monsters flying around and things like that. So I was eager to get to those points. So for me, it was a little bit slow, but worth persevering with, because you do learn some skills and techniques that come into hand later on.
And for me, it was just an extension of what I've been playing before. Straight back into the world as well. That feel for it. I mean, there's just the first opening moment where you pull your gas mask on, I think, just while you're still outside, and your breath starts fogging the bottom of the display up, and the condensation starts, and you head into the tunnels. It becomes claustrophobic and dark and tight, and you can hear all the sounds, and something's coming at you. And that's pretty much the opening scenes, is, fighting for your life before you start to get a grip on it, and you move on. And it threw me straight back into it. It reminded me a lot of what I really enjoyed the previous games. And then it takes you on that journey where it then starts to divert away from that completely linear experience, through tunnels and corridors, out into these semi-open worlds.
Yeah.
And that is the big shift in it, but it retains the same look and feel and the way it plays to the previous one. So it is still very much a stealth game. You can run and gun, you can take people on head on, but actually figuring out stealth or alternate routes is probably the better way to play it to get the most out of the experience. There's something that will potentially be off-putting for people in the first hour, and it's the actual movement, and the weight and heft of your character is quite tangible. It's not a fast-paced Call of Duty experience by any means. You're weighed down by kit that you're carrying, and whilst you've not got weight management or anything like that going on, you do feel it in the turn and the motion. And I know that puts quite a few people off. You can't run for particularly long distances before getting out of breath, and you've got oxygen to manage and other bits and pieces. So it's a different feel, but it puts me in mind of actually Killzone 2 and the movement style in that. It's that kind of weighty feel to it, and it also translates into the gunplay as well, and how that things. It's solid. It's quite vicious. It's not 100% precise. It's not, line your crosshairs up and you're absolutely going to nail your shot, because it kind of throws all the variation in along the way. The variations of the guns, the degradation of the guns, and all sorts of other bits and pieces. But I can see it being hard work getting through that first sector. It's fine for me. I love it. But I knew what I was getting into. If people don't, they might go, I'm not too sure on this. Where does it start becoming the game I'm expecting? And that is genuinely after the first hour. It's as soon as it opens up into that first area, winter time on the banks of the Volga. You've got boats to travel around in. You've got monsters to avoid. You've got bandit camps, cultists. It throws a lot at you and quite a lot of open space as well.
Hijacking another train to stop
it. That's it. It's environmental puzzles. There's the lovely implementation of stealth mechanics, the use of a day-night cycle that genuinely has an impact. Think Metal Gear Solid 5, and attacking a camp on a night is very different from attacking on a day because of guard patterns, patrols, sleeping, etc. It really does become a tactical adventure, and it drives you along quite nicely at a reasonable pace, but it's not a short game either.
No. I think one of the things you told me about was with the day-night cycle. In Metal Gear, you think, well, there's a real advantage to going at night because you can get closer, people won't see you as easily. But from what you were telling me, in Metro, at night, there's just big off monsters.
Yes, so what populates the landscape depends on what time of day it is. At night, you are more likely to encounter the beasts because the humans will withdraw to their camps and really tighten themselves up. Whereas during the day, you'll still encounter beasts, but there's not quite as many of them, and obviously humans can see further and are on the lookout and patrolling. It's quite a different experience, and it's interesting in the way it's implemented because I think for the first part of it, I was very conscious, especially after your first encounter right at the beginning with the monsters that almost take you out, or if you're called Andy, do take you out. So I believe that's your experience.
No, I got to the third monster and I had no ammo, right? And I'd only fired like 2 shots, and that was it.
Yeah.
And then I went on holiday, so it's not that that's just completely put me off.
No, it isn't. But yeah, I kind of steered clear of the beast for quite a while, and then I think I was just doing a bit of exploring, and I found a demon on top of an old gas storage tower. In the first game, there were things to avoid completely. You just didn't go near them because I think they just picked you up, carried you off to the nest, and pretty much killed you. So I was watching out for these things. I'd had an encounter earlier on, which I loved. The piece of detail in this is that these demons fly around hunting for you, and I just hid in a corpse of trees. It couldn't get me. It couldn't fly down, so it got bored and flew off.
So are those things flying around demons then?
They call them demons. They're not necessarily.
Because I saw one and shot at it, and it threw me around like a ragdoll. I still had it, but
the vicious.
I spanked all my armor in it. You going down?
But I found one asleep on top of a gas silo as I was hunting for a little. I think I was hunting for a little girl's teddy bear. And yeah, I found it up there, and it was snoozing, and 7 or 8 shots, I managed to take it down, and I think that made me go, hang on, these aren't quite as deadly as maybe I'm giving it credit for. And then I kind of stopped being quite as cautious or thinking about movement around, because there are a lot of beasts, and the best thing to do, to be honest, is avoid them, because you just run through your ammo. That's your main issue. So
I'm sorry,
but I just keep clear.
You came across a sleeping creature, murdered it, and then thought, hey, that wasn't too hard. Who's the real monster here?
Yes, Matthew.
Me.
But going on the big creature thing, so although it is fairly linear, the open world bits that you get to are pretty substantial.
Yeah,
they are pretty big, especially the first bit. I mean, I don't know if you've got any further than that, Matt.
Oh yeah.
I'm still exploring that quite a bit, and I've got to a bit where I think someone gave me a key to get into somewhere, but without spoiling anything too much. I've got into this warehouse. There's lots of zombie things, whatever you want to call them, the people.
Yeah, we'll come to the creatures in a bit, actually, because there's a few different types.
Within this warehouse, there's water at the bottom, and there can only be what I can describe as whatever. It's like a cross between the sandworm thing in Star Wars and like an eel.
The Sarlacc.
Yes, that's it, Sarlacc. Thank you. I couldn't think of it.
It's a giant catfish. It's a mutated catfish.
Yeah, and I was just like, wow, okay, that's massive. So I don't know. I'm going to tackle that. I'm stuck in the building with it at the minute.
You will enjoy how you tackle that. I guarantee.
Wait till it goes to sleep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Stab it in the
Night
eyes.
cycle.
So yeah, it's a good point creature wise, because you've got these massive monsters which are kind of your set piece beasts as such that you're going to tackle at some point. But then you've got your standard ones depending on your environment. But they're sort of all pervasive are these ghouls, the zombie type. They're like humans. They're very much a Fallout ghoul. That's what they seem like, but not able to communicate and pretend to be civilized, that kind of stuff. They do come at you, and they swarm
as well.
Yeah, they swarm at you.
Yeah.
So it's quite difficult keeping a track of them when they do, and it's very easy to lose yourself to a pack of those.
And some are harder than others because there are some that are more grey than green, or whatever you'd call it. Like
they look a little bit bigger, don't they? And yeah, so you've got those. You've got watchmen, which are a little bit like dogs in terms of working as packs. You do come across packs of wolves later on. You've got the demons. You've got these lobstery crab type things. You've got all sorts of things. Monstrous spiders that are afraid of the light. You get all sorts of variety in it. It's really nicely done. Plus your standard humans as well. But the humans are not always enemies. No. And that's something you have to pay attention to on approaching a camp, is to try and figure out, am I going to get shot to pieces coming to here, or actually do I just need to put my gun away and I can walk in?
Yeah.
And it's quite nice listening to the conversations of creeping around and gauging that feel, and then going, yeah, these guys are going to be all right, and then walking in and finding out that they are and getting a side mission or something else from them.
It's interesting that you mention Fallout, because I would say, to probably some people may not like me saying this, but I'd say I've not had this much fun in this style of game, first person post-apocalyptic game or whatever you want to call it, since Fallout 3. Right. That's what it's kind of bringing back for me, and why I've spent so much time in it. There's obviously, it's doing it in a Metro way, it's not doing it in a Bethesda way.
Yeah.
But it's the fact that you have to do a lot of crafting, the way the crafting works, the way you have to be very careful with your ammo, different things to pick up, the traps. It feels very kind of Bethesda-y to me.
Yeah.
And I'm really, really, really enjoying the game. And I think the crafting and the way, just some of the little mechanics in the game works so well. So if you get hit too many times and it fractures your mask, then you have to stick a bit of duct tape on it until you can get to an area to repair it.
Yeah.
And then you get the bits of nuclear dust or something, the glowing green things that you have to clean your weapons with.
So you pick up various chemicals that are used in the crafting. You pick up scrap. You can do on the fly crafting for certain items, but most of your weaponry stuff has to be done at crafting workstations. I like the fact that you out in the field, you're carrying 3 weapons pretty much most of the time, and as and when you find other weapons or take them off other people, you can strip them down for parts, and if you don't own that part already, you tend to add it to the inventory, and whilst you're out, you can just access your backpack automatically, and you kind of hunker down, and you can swap out scopes and stocks and muzzles depending on what situation you're in. So you don't need to carry like a weapon for every situation. You can actually just carry, say, a silencer for your pistol and a long barrel and a scope. So it becomes a sniper rifle at distance, but it's useful close up as well.
Well, that sounds great, yeah.
It does work really well, and it's not intrusive or painful to do. It's kind of there are a lot of buttons to get your head round. It sounds daft given how many buttons are on a pad, but there's a lot to do. But when you are familiar with it, which doesn't take long, you tap 2 buttons, backpack's open, flip to the menu, swap that out, do that, close back up, off you go. It's really nice.
It strikes me as a game that does kind of focus and pay attention to little details. One of the things that actually really freaked me out was again in the opening bit, because I haven't got much more experience to go on than that, is that when you're burning a cobweb with your lighter, and spiders walk all over you. That freaked me out.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Yeah,
it doesn't happen every time either, which is nice. It is random, and I guess it depends on if you've scared the spiders away before you get there, which is that extra detail. So in some games, it'd be every time you burn a cobweb, spiders are going to fall on you. You get bored of it,
Yeah.
But it is very random, and sometimes they crawl across your mask, and
Sometimes
I'm
it's
like,
just on your
I
hand.
don't like spiders.
Ironically, that's where the first of the 2 shots that I fired before my weapon ran out of ammo was, spiders.
Spiders.
So-
But just before we move on from like some of the mechanic bits, is I love the BB gun air rifle thing that you've got, and I just love the mechanic how you have to pump up the pressure,
Yeah.
and then obviously the more pressure you've got, it goes from one hit almost, and then
You need more shots if you've got lower pressure going, yeah. And it's also the one weapon that you can craft ammo for as you're walking around the environment, so it becomes quite essential to maintain that weapon and have it with you. You're talking little details. There's some lovely touches that you just don't expect. Like I was in the Volga area taking down a bandit encampment, and it wasn't long after I'd had the demon in the trees. I think part of the reason he was distracted is because of these bandits as well. They took that demon out, and I then started picking them off from the edges of the camp, trying to get closer. So there was a bit of a combat, full-scale battle going on, but I got the upper hand. And there must have been about 6 of them, and I took 5 of them out, and then all of a sudden I just hear this little voice, "I surrender!" And he gave up. Yeah. Because I'd managed to take down the camp. He'd stopped. He just gave up, so I just knocked him out. Took his stuff, and I've had it not every time, but I've had it on occasion. And the last time I had it happen, I must have taken between 12 and 15 of quite a large camp out, and the 3 of them, there were 3 guys left who could quite easily have taken me, but because they didn't know the size of the force, they just all gave up. And again, just run around, knock them out, all done. And I love that little bit of detail that these people want to keep their lives, and the fact that you do have to balance killing with knocking out. You don't have to kill everybody, and in fact, some of your travelling companions will look down on you for doing it. And I suspect it's going to change the outcome of some levels as well, depending on what you do. Because I remained quite stealthy and non-lethal during the Volga level, and I got an ending to that sequence that made me think, if I'd been different, this wouldn't be happening.
Oh, okay.
But then, more through the way the game plays out, I ended up becoming much more lethal as I've gone through.
Yeah, I mean, mine's fairly situational. I'm normally shooting people in the back of the head.
I start out with good intentions, but then people die.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's very tricky to be really stealthy in it, because you have to turn the lights off, and in some stealthy games, light doesn't always matter. Like in Hitman, for example, line of sight, but it doesn't matter if it's day or night.
Oh, it does with this. If you've got your torch on, you'll be seen from distance.
So that it's very, very challenging to be stealthy. I normally just throw a knife at them.
Your key that you've picked up, by the way, and the area that you're probably going into, if you find the door that key opens, you'll get yourself some night vision goggles.
Oh, because there's lots of upgrades for your equipment, and I think some of them, correct me if I'm wrong, Matt, some of them you get upgrades for and you have to pick.
Yes.
So I've got 2 types of body armor, one that's got more ammo pouches, one that's got more throwables, I think it is.
Yeah, you can, again, you swap between them depending on what your scenario is and what you think you need.
Yeah.
But yeah, the whole thing works really well. Like I said, your torch, your night vision, they all require power. You've got like a little hand dynamo that pumps your power up that you need to recharge. It does its job really well. It does what it did in the previous games. It's just released it into an open world and put a really intriguing story on it. Now, there are some niggles. It's not perfect. Some earlier stages, definitely the sound design is atrocious, to the point where I couldn't hear actually what was happening in the exposition for the story, and it really wound me up. But actually, I've got past that stage and it hasn't come back. So I think it was just peculiar to that particular bit. I have had a crash that's kicked me out completely. But other than that, it's been reasonably good. There's long loading times into the levels. You can be 5 minutes.
When you first boot it up, oh my God. Because people have been moaning about Anthem and the long loading times and things. And I just felt like going, please, have you played Metro? Because when you first load it up, it's kind of, right, I'll load up the game and go make a cup of tea. And it may be loaded up. You obviously on the PlayStation 4 Pro, Matt. I'm on the Xbox One X, and sometimes it takes because there's numbers in the bottom, like a little counter going around, which I presume
as your
would get to 100 when you get to 100.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're like, Jesus, I'm still at 14.
Yeah, it takes it takes a long time to load. But once you're in, if you have to reload if you die or anything else, it does. It's not that bad at all, and it's not too bad when it's loading between levels. It's just that initial one that takes the time.
And I think that's because, especially for the area that that I'm in, which is like the first opening big area, there's no loading times when you're going in and out of various buildings either. I think it's because it's pretty much loaded that entire
it's the whole
area, audio, random events, blah blah blah. And you will get long loading times for that.
Yeah,
it's just a little bit extreme in this day and age.
It works. It works. It works. Like, and as you go further on, and it doesn't change from a loading perspective if you're booting it from scratch, but it doesn't take quite as long if you're just doing the story to story piece.
The only reason why I think I'm not as far as you into the game is because I'm having a lot of fun exploring, and I'm a sucker for that. I can't play any game if I see a question mark and I think, well, if I go to the main mission and I miss that question, I miss something. Yeah. So I just veer off.
On that note, one of the things that I remember saying, what it would have been about October, November time, was there's no waypoint markers. It's a question of if you see something in the distance, you mark it on your map and then you navigate there to find it. Is that true, and how does it work?
That's close enough. You've got a pair of binoculars, and you'll use those to scope out what's around you, and as you sort of hover over somewhere that you can go and have a look at that might have something interesting, it'll put a question mark on it. Or other people will tell you about a location, it'll put a question mark on your map, and then you use your compass on your arm to direct you there. That compass you don't pick up until a little bit later on either. So you do actually have to put your map up and have a look at a very Far Cry 2 style. Bring your map up, see where you are, go to your objective or go to one of the markers. So you do have to navigate your way around, because in effect there's really no heads-up display. You get your weapon icon and other bits and pieces when it's required, otherwise it just disappears off the screen. So it tries to not interrupt what you can see, and which is a good thing because it's a beautiful game. The opening sequences in the frosty metro, the knackered Moscow, the Volga's in the winter, so it's snowy, it's bleak, it's cold, it's grey. But then as you travel on, it moves spring, summer, and it brightens up, and vegetation comes back, and it's a really sort of transitional journey for the characters as well as the actual game itself.
Rabbits float down rivers.
I don't know if they float down rivers, but I have seen rabbits in cages.
Was it Eurogame or somewhere? It posted a screen grab of it's basically some bunnies on what looks like a little bit of wood that's formed a makeshift raft floating down a river.
I'll have a look, because one of the areas I'm at the moment has rabbits and rivers and lots of trees and bears and wolves and lots of things to avoid. So yeah, it's, you know what? It's great. I really am enjoying it. As a first-person shooter, it's different to most things out there, just in its style and content. Yep. It's a little bit like Wolfenstein and Wolfenstein 2 in it's a brutal subject matter. The things that you encounter are not pleasant. Cultists, cannibals, slavers.
Horrible.
Mutiny. It's awful. It's awful depictions of what would happen in an apocalypse. And it reminds me a little bit of Wolfenstein in the way the regime were in some of these areas. But it's a stunning game in the way it presents it and plays through it and what it does on the journey. And I don't think I've got that much further to go to get to the end. And I'm looking forward to finding out what that is.
Well, then, it sounds like it's a recommendation from you guys.
Yeah,
it is,
definitely. Yeah. And from a non-fan and a fan. Matt's been a fan of the series for
a while.
Read the books, everything. And I've got the first two. And I think I got so far into it, got stuck, sacked it off.
I mean, I'm with you, Ali. I really bounced off Redux, and I keep trying to get back into it. And maybe this is what I need to find out and just dull down and get it done.
I think the problem with Redux for me is the control styles are very, very old school. I think that's what I struggled with. Whereas with Exodus, they've updated that, and it's helped a lot.
I might crack on and get it done, or alternatively just leave it till June so I can submit it as a Codec Momentum.
Now we're talking.
30 hours plus a gameplay. Make sure you do a bit of it before you submit it. Otherwise, you'll never get there.
Yeah, that is a very good point. I feel quite bad now because I've not... Well, actually, no, I have played a lot of a game.
What have you been playing?
WWE 2K18.
Yeah, get in. Stone Cold Steve Austin.
On the Switch.
On the Switch?
Yeah.
What is wrong with you?
I went to Sainsbury's on Wednesday night.
Oh, you're back. I bet they rolled out the red carpet for
Hey,
you.
Mr. Brown, welcome back. And it was all on its own, and it had a handwritten price tag. And I thought, I cannot read what that price tag says. It looks like $9.99. I might just go and get them to price check it, because it can't be right. So she scans it. I was like, oh no, it's not $9.99. It's $4.99.
What?
I was like, I'll have that.
Does it play well?
Well, interesting you should say that, Ali. The last WWE game I played was on the original PlayStation,
Oh, okay.
and this looks and plays worse.
Oh.
It has constant frame rate crashes and slows the entire game down. It's an awful experience, so don't always go and buy the $4.99 game from Sainsbury's.
Damn. Because I still watch it to this day. I don't care. I enjoy it, and I've played quite a number of the games. I've not brought the last two because 2K that do it are a bit
Basically, yeah, don't buy WWE 2K18 on the Switch. It's really not the same beast as its other console brethren.
Yeah.
Okay.
Disappointing.
Which kind of put me in mind of another Switch port that I've been playing. Thankfully, it's not terrible. I said I've not played much over the past week or so. I've put 22 hours in on this.
Ooh. Wow.
And it's Trials Rising.
Yeah.
Well, that's easy to put 22 hours into.
And is that 22 hours into? Have you brought the main game, or was that just the beta?
No, that's just on the main game. That doesn't count.
Right.
That doesn't count the time I put into the beta.
Let's get this right. It's not a f***ing beta. You do not put a beta out 2 days before my retail copy lands on my doormat. That is not a beta. That's a demo.
Didn't your
Demo.
copy ship the same day that the beta
Started,
Launch?
Went
shouldn't
live.
it? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Ah, yeah.
So you're like, that is not a give over. Developers, please stop calling them betas, because they're not tests in any way, shape, or form. They're demos to sell copies and have been for years. Just stop it.
No, I think it's an actual beta.
Oh,
But I really enjoy it. It's a great game. I mean, I've been a fan since the 360 Trials game that was on the Xbox Live Arcade.
I only got into it with Fusion, so I don't know the early ones.
I made you play it.
Did you?
I think it's one of about 2 games you've ever played on an Xbox, one of which being Splinter Cell Conviction, and the
Yeah,
other one,
That's the only one
and the
I
other
remember.
one being Trials HD, wasn't it?
Well, you saying that we used to play shed loads of Halo and Halo 2 when I was at uni, but
People do things at university they're not proud of, Matthew.
yeah, no, that's why I keep it secret.
I did chemistry.
I can't remember the name of the game, but I think Trials is basically an evolution of a game that was on PC. It was based on the motion and different things of a bike. I can't remember what it was called.
It was,
and I think that's where it stemmed
wasn't it
from.
originally a Java? Wasn't it a Java game?
Yeah.
It was. It was originally a Java game, and then they got. I think they got the opportunity to get it on the Xbox Live Arcade.
Yes, and then it was branded Trials, but
HD.
it wasn't. I don't think it was called Trials to start off with, and it was all about the physics of how you can go over certain bumps, and it was just showing you the way technology has moved, and then it's become this mental thing that we've got now from Ubisoft.
I like to think it's an evolution of Kickstart that was on the ZX Spectrum
Yeah.
that I played as a child, which I'm sure was based on a TV show.
Yeah, Kickstart.
Yeah. But no, far more sophisticated now, obviously. So go on, why have you put 22 hours in? What's compelled you so much with this game?
It's easy to put in a lot of time on it and not think about it because the levels are all really short. I mean, this just totally plays into my idea of what attention span is. The way they've kind of put the gameplay hook in is with the contracts, I think. So you have the opportunity not just now of getting the bronze, silver, or gold based on your time or, your number of faults, which essentially was just a function of time because it impacted how long it took you to complete a level. Now you've got contracts on a lot of the levels where you're given something that you need to do for completion. So it might be a number of tricks. It might be completing it within a certain time. It might be beating one of the ghost AI riders that you kind of are always there in the background.
I've probably not done quite as much as you. I think we're about level 24-ish, which doesn't take that long to get to. But we've done there's a skill games element that you've got. There's the stadium races. There's the stuff that they have been putting in definitely in the last Trials game. You found the secrets, the collectibles, the hidden elements. I found another one of those actually just before we recorded this podcast. I'll stick it on Twitter later. It's a really tough one to put my finger on what I like about it, but I think you might have already said it. It's just the time, the shortness that you can finish a level in a minute 30. If you screw up, it's an instant button, reset to checkpoint or restart. And it's the challenge. The easy stages are nice. They're just fun to play. And then when the challenges start to ramp up, you really enjoy trying to master them.
And I think in the earlier Trials games, it was that mastery. It was that how do I get over this particular jump so that I'm carrying the most speed and I'm not losing too much in height and various other things to really nail that time. And with the contracts element having been brought in and encouraging you to do other things like tricks, and some of them as well, the contracts are combinations. I had one the other day that was you have to do so many forward flips.
Oh, and so many backward.
Yeah, but so many backward. But you also can't have too many resets.
Yeah.
So it's not only in that case, like it tweaks your play style. So my mindset has always been instant reset. If you have a fault, instant reset, go for the fastest time possible. And then I'm suddenly thinking, but I've got to nail all these tricks now. So I'll just reset to checkpoint and I'll go on that way and I'll know these tricks. And then you're going through and you're like, okay, so I've got to nail these tricks now, but I can't have all these faults. So I've actually got to think more about it. And rather than just trying to do it, I've got to work out which the best jump is to do it on and make sure I do it then.
Yeah.
It forces me to actually think about how I'm playing it.
Yeah. It plays into my mindset of it. I don't mind doing the racing element of it, the speed to the end, but actually one of the things I've really enjoyed in the past about them is just taking my time trying to master the level and really not worrying about a time limit. And I think you're right. That's what these contracts do. They just say, forget about how long it's going to take you to do it. All I want you to do is complete this objective. And some of those objectives are beat this person. There's some challenge ones, isn't there? There's a challenge crate type things that come up as well, where you have to beat a series of AI riders. I say AI riders. I think some of them are ghosts of other players or ghosts of Ubisoft staff.
I think you can. I think you can tell when they've got like the club logo next to it. It's an actual player.
I've seen ghosts on ones without the club logo as well.
I think they
people that are on my friends list.
Oh, okay.
So that's why I'm not too shocked, because I was thinking the same until I saw someone tonight and I thought, hang on, that's not got one. Unless, and I don't know if this has any bearing or not, unless the club logo is something to do with them being on another platform.
Well, maybe.
Or I could only think of maybe a Ubisoft employee or someone. I don't know, but yeah, the competitive nature is there. But even with the multitude of times it's telling you so-and-so's beaten your time or beat these people or everything else, actually the competition is as it's always been. It's with yourself.
Yeah, totally. And that's what's hooked me, is that whole, they're short levels. Most of them you can probably ride through if you do it well in less than a minute. But it's that thing where it's kept me on a level for 20 minutes, because every time I make a big mistake, I want to restart from the beginning because I want to absolutely nail it. It's absolutely got me hooked. That's why I've put 22 hours in and only got it on Tuesday. And it's just that thing where I thought this way, I've been on holiday, I've come back, and I thought this week, do you know, I have had some really early nights and I should feel more rested. And I thought, no, you went to bed early, but you sat up in bed playing Trials until about 1:30 in the morning.
So that's the beauty of the Switch, though, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
The fact that
Absolutely.
And it's not, unlike WWE, it's not a port as such. It works very, very well. It's been built for or alongside to work.
It's been scaled back, and it's the same levels. The visual fidelity isn't there. They've introduced some interesting elements like fog to, cloud out the missing background elements.
But it still looks really good.
It does look good. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It doesn't look as nice as it does on the consoles, but then it's on a handheld unit, and it is, as Matt was saying, you hit the minus button and it's an instant restart to the level. You hit the B button, you're instantly back at the next checkpoint. There's no delay there. There's no lag there.
No.
I haven't noticed any significant frame rate drops. I know that some people had complained a bit about it, but it seems pretty stable at 30 frames per second. Again,
you get the odd drop or hitch on the consoles. Not often, but you get it there. So if they're doing it on the Switch and it's managing to replicate the same in handheld format,
it's half. It's
good.
It's 30 FPS on.
Yeah, but you're still getting the same experience as such.
No, it is great. It is just absolutely brilliantly suited for that. Just having your hand and just keep plucking away at that time trial. I love it. I am absolutely in love with it.
It's great. I think it's a step up on Fusion. The bit for me that absolutely was needed before that wasn't in there is the Trials University, which is the teach you how to do some of the more ridiculously tricky obstacles without leaving it to you to figure out, because it's not always intuitive for everybody. So it's an extended tutorial, but it's completely optional. You don't have to go and do it, but it is worth going to do, because some of the ones you're looking at and going, how do I pull that off? But having a Ghost Rider there who is pulling it off, that you can study in detail, and it'll also give you a description on how to do it. And it'll show, it even shows the suspension preload markers for some of the things, so you can gauge what you're doing with your weight shift so that you can replicate it. It's really nice. It's lovelily thought out. And I think from way back on the first time we played it, was it November, December, they stuck a version out for people to have a go at. It was all right, but it didn't grab me as such. And until we've got nearer. And now, actually, the full game's good.
Yeah,
there are a few issues, but it's good.
And to say they've kind of scaled it back visually on the Switch is a little bit isn't really doing it justice, because some of those levels are amazing. They look great, and the verticality of it on some of them is just brilliant.
The level design is phenomenal, and I can't wait to see what the community come up with as well. Because it's that will give it its longevity.
Yeah.
So even if you do ever manage to make it through the full game and do all the extreme tracks, which is asking some, then you've got a full set of user-generated content as well.
It was that lovely moment when I hit level 14, which seems like quite a while ago now. And you unlock the next bike, and you suddenly realise that actually there's completely different paths you can take that you just didn't have access to before.
Yeah, because sometimes when you nail a certain jump, you can actually get the higher ground.
Yeah,
which bring you out in different ways and different things.
I'm officially hooked.
Oh, good. It's got, I tell you though, for me on PS4, it has got the weirdest bug I've come across ever. My old DualShock pad doesn't work with it. It controls the entire console, works with everything else, will not control Trials Rising.
What?
It's really, really strange.
So what doesn't work?
The pad. You can use the home button, bring the home screen up, do everything you would usually do. You can play other games. Absolutely fine. As soon as you are in anything to do with Trials Rising, the pad just does not function. Really strange. I have to turn it off and swap to one of the new format ones.
What's different on the newer format ones? They've got another light at the top.
I don't know. Maybe some change in the Bluetooth comms or something. I've done some searching. I can't find anybody else is having the same issue. So it is really, really strange.
Surely the Bluetooth comms should have nothing to do with the game, really. That should be
none
hardware.
of this should have anything to do with it, but it just doesn't work. Really, really bizarre. And I've had it crash to desktop a couple of times, but I had it crash to desktop tonight in the middle of one of the crate challenges. So where you're up against a number of different opponents. I was on the third opponent, I was beating him, and I was near the end, and it just stuttered and stopped and crashed.
It crashed out.
So unstable. Very, but in fairness, it's felt completely unstable all tonight. Its connection to the servers and things like that has been very weird. So it's a bit strange. I think it's one of these. So it's so dependent on connecting to Ubisoft and feeding data backwards and forwards that I think if you get any lag anywhere along the chain or any issues, it is going to impact your experience.
Well, I have to keep an eye out for that. I've only had one crash out, and it was when it was totting up my XP at the end of a mission, so it didn't really have any impact on me. But other than that, it seems pretty stable.
Bad. It's when it was mid race, and that challenge is now gone. Huh? It's disappeared completely because it failed. I don't know whether it classes you fail or winning it, but I didn't get any items, and it's disappeared off the menu as well. So I was like, oh great! So that was my sure thing disappeared. I've lost a bit of cosmetic.
Yeah.
Stuff.
Not another pair of lycra pants.
At least you can sell them. Yeah.
But so it's a slight confession. I've only played the beta demo thing, and I want to get it. And after hearing all that, I'll probably get it on my Switch shortly.
Hey.
I thought you were going to say I've pre-ordered it while you two were talking.
No, not yet.
Shop 2 now.
Yeah. Oh no, I'll do it digitally and just have it now.
Oh, so in about an hour then.
Yeah.
No, it is very good. It is a very, very good game.
So there we go. That's what we've been up to: Metro and Trials Rising.
Yeah, I highly recommend both for FPS fans or just crazy stunt weight shifting bike antics. Two very different games.
Yeah,
I think it's fair to say.
All right, if you want to join in and let us know what you've been playing, then why don't you tweet us? Well, tweet Matt specifically at Codec Moments. Or check out codecmoments.com for more of our reviews and articles. That do?
Yeah.
That's good.
All right then. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.